Kelly, Rick, and Lewis. This thing it infuriates me when I see things like this, and I'll explain once we go through this. Something's blown up on TikTok over the last few weeks. It's a relationship test. It's called the bird test. Kelly, I know you've heard of this.
Yeah.
And apparently failing this exam could mean your relationship is doomed. And it's I saw this video by this girl. She's 23. Her name's Alyssa Karabardi. And she talks about how she lives and dies by this bird test. This one video I saw has 1.9 million views. She says the test never fails. And there's also a psychologist. Oh, what was his name? Anyway, he said there's a thing. People need to know that they are being emotionally noticed. And I understand that. I don't know if you need this test in order to figure that out. Psychologist John Gottman. He calls it bids for emotional connection. All right. He says people need a bid for an emotional connection. And if they're not getting them, their relationship's probably not going to work out. And this is a way to test your guy to see if he's, emotionally connected to you. And I'm going to play a clip here of Alyssa. You'll hear her, and then you'll hear Dr. Gottman.
Apparently, a lot of people don't know what the bird test is, which I'm sure there's a better name for it, but that's wild to me because I live and die by the bird test.
Research has shown the single biggest determining factor in whether a happy relationship will last. When one partner says, "Oh, that's a beautiful bird outside," does the other partner respond with something like, "Wow, that is beautiful," or do they blow their partner off and ignore the bird?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
I mean, it's a simple matter of respecting somebody's interests. Like,
Correct.
To me, I love it. I think it shows you right off the bat if the person you're with, either guy or girl, could give a crap about what you're saying. If they don't respond or act like what you're saying's dumb or they brush you off, you've got a great big red flag there. To me, if you're saying, hey, if you're sitting down at a first date and you're like, oh my gosh, look at that beautiful bird out there, and the person actually takes an interest in what you've just said, that is a green flag all the way.
Well, and the other thing, too, is if you've been in a relationship long enough, you accept the fact that you're going to have separate likes. But when you know your significant other is really into something and they bring up a conversation about it, you pay attention and you engage in the conversation.
I feel like this is sort of a beginning of a relationship test, It's sort of a beginning thing to say, and it's not even really a test. You're not flying it out there as a test. You're just remarking on something that you think is interesting, and if the other person blows you off, then you know what? It's not the right person for you.
Oh, no. They are doing this as a test. It is called the bird test.
Okay, that's fine. I'm saying you can call it a test. You can call it whatever you want. If I remark about something in the stratosphere that I find interesting and the person I'm with blows me off, I'm like, okay, well, this is a good idea that we might not be a good fit.
Okay, I'm pretty okay with that. But to do it as a test, to me, this is a head game, a high school head game.
Yes.
And I left those back in high school. I am not into head games, and to me, that's exactly what this is.
I don't think it's somebody meaning to, like, oh, I'm going to pull a test on this person. It's somebody saying, look, this is a good test or a good determiner of if a relationship is going to work out or not.
I mean, but it's we're talking about birds here, all right? Now, not everybody's going to give a damn about some birds. It's kind of like...
Do you give a damn about the person you're with?
Yes, but...
Okay.
All right,
depends on the day. I
can tell you right now, my wife and I are great. 30 years together. Perfect. If I said, wow, look at that. That's a 1982 442, and it's candy apple blue. I didn't even know they made those in candy apple blue. She's not going to give a damn about that car... and I don't expect her to acknowledge
for context, this Alyssa was doing about a beginning of a relationship. If it's a first date or you're even with a person you think, oh, we might be good friends. Her TikTok was made to determine whether a relationship will move forward from its beginning. So it's not talking about testing a relationship 30 years in.
Okay.
This is testing the beginning of a relationship. And I think test is a bad word for it.
Yeah,
it's a determiner. It's a determiner. If I say something that's interesting to me and the other person doesn't find it at all interesting and blows me off and ignores me, gotcha. This is good. Nice to meet you. I don't think this is going any
All
further.
right, what if you make the comment about the bird and I go, oh, that's cool?
Yeah.
Is that good enough?
Good enough.
Okay,
to
not
me.
according to Alyssa. You haven't seen the whole video.
I've
That's
seen
not-
the whole video
Okay.
multiple times.
She said, and she specifically says, and if they respond with like, oh, cool bird, she said that's a really bad sign.
Oh, I don't think so. I think what she's saying is that she was testing out a girl who has become her best friend. This wasn't even a romantic relationship for Alyssa. She said this friend basically got up and sat down next to her and like really got into it. Like, oh my gosh, look at that. That is really cool. I mean, got so into it. And they became great friends because there was an acknowledgement and a mutual interest there.
What if you just don't test well?
Right.
Yeah, you might be one of those people who don't
Just
test
saying,
well.
Some people
Yeah.
get lower ACT scores than others. That doesn't make them bad people.
Somebody
They
please
just don't
shove
test
some
well.
darts into my eyeballs right now. People were commenting on this, and one person said, I've always done this, but with cows and horses on a road trip. If I say, look, cows, and you don't look at the cows, you're dead to me. Are you freaking serious right now? This is how you're going to... come on.
I mean, I think
Seriously.
you can understand that's a little hyperbole there. I mean, this isn't somebody who's like cutting somebody out because they don't notice the cows. I mean, there's some hyperbole with that. But I'm saying the general rule is true that call it a test, call it a determining factor, that if you remark on something that's interesting to you and the person you're with could not give a crap about you or your interests, just move along. There's somebody else who might say, hey, you know what? You're interested in that bird. Let me see what this is all about here. You know, let me find out what you find is interesting about this situation.
I would love to see Keller respond
I don't
if I started bringing up some fantasy football things.
We're not in the beginning of a
Even if
working
we were.
relationship.
Even if we were.
I would be like, yeah, because I respect you enough, or at least the
Okay.
beginning, to say, so that's something you're interested in. That's something you're interested in. Tell me about it. What is so interesting about fantasy football?
If I say I'm not into birds, does that mean the relationship's over before you even give me a chance? Because I might be into other things you like, so we're going to pass that quick of a judgment
I'm
within
saying.
the first
You
5
guys,
seconds.
I think you are really taking this too seriously. It's just an interesting note. It's something that's interesting to notice in someone. Do they respect your interests? Do they notice something you notice? Are they respectful in conversation? Like we're sitting down for a first date or a first meeting or a first coffee or whatever.
Sorry.
And I say, yeah, look at that. That's so cool. And the other person's like, won't even look up from their phone. You know what? I think we're done here.
I'm going to scream.
I'm sorry, I didn't notice the birds. I was too busy in this article in my latest copy of Hustler magazine.
I mean, I'm sorry, but if you're testing me, like on purpose, you're specific, you have a test that you want to test me with, I feel disrespected by that. And if you want to test me and I fail it, I want you to break up with me because I don't want anything to do with that kind of high school head game BS in my life.
You're taking the word test too literally here. She said it's a determining factor. It's a determining factor as to whether you can have a proper conversation with someone.
But she is doing this on purpose.
She's saying that is what she does to see, hey, are we
Right.
going to get along here?
Yeah,
like,
I
I'm
live
into
and-
this, you're not.
I live and die by the bird
You
test.
are taking this so freaking literally. I can't with you right now. I can't with you. You can't even see this as like something that's an interesting thing.
No.
Okay,
Because
that's fine.
you know if somebody's emotionally connected to you.
I used it.
know if they respect you and
You don't if it's a first date. You have no idea what this person's like in terms of conversation.
I used to use
I'm
the
nervous enough on a first date. Now I need to be tested on top of it.
You
Sure,
are
go
being
back
so
to high
literal
school.
with this
I
test.
don't need this.
What if I just said, hey, this kind of determines how I feel about you as to how you respond to something I bring up is interesting to me.
I still wouldn't
It
do
sort
it.
of determines how I feel about the whole
Birds?
date.
I used to
Like
use
I have to
It
be
could be-
interested in birds.
It could be anything, bro. It could be anything.
It's a test.
I used to use the prenup test on first dates. What are your thoughts on signing a prenup? No? Okay, good. And my thoughts were half and nothing is still worse than nothing. So
Oh my gosh!
And Brendan's right. He texted, hey, Thick, every first date is a test. It is. It's a determiner.
Sure.
The things that happen on a first date are, if you want to call it a test, you can. Aren't you testing people as to how they respond to you? You are. It's just a determiner. It's not an actual, I'm going to roll out a test for this person and see if they pass. You're taking that too literally.
Larry says you can't determine a relationship based on one thing. If so, you're going to be a lonely person in life. Let's see. We got another text here that says, childish. Even if I passed the test, if I found out she tested me, that would be a red flag to me about her. Rick is right. It's high school BS. Bob B said, preach it, Rick.
I kind of agree, but I don't like tests in general. Like, I just, get to know a person. And I think whether you'll figure it out on the first date, you have to go on the first date. And by the end of the first date, you typically know whether or not you want to see that person again. And then if you do, you're going to find some common likes, some things you don't necessarily agree on, and some things that you suck it up and do for the other person in the party, and they'll do the same for you. It's just how it works.
Jamie says, I hate it when mom and dad fight.
I'm not fighting. I think this is a 23-year-old child who made this TikTok.
Yes.
You can't find any value in what she's saying in terms of how people relate. And I notice if I say something and nobody responds. I notice when I'm being ignored. I think it's an interesting point she's making. She's a young girl, and she's making an interesting point about the beginnings of relationships. I find value in that TikTok, and people are saying I'm nuts. That's fine if you think I'm nuts. I'm not doubling down because I don't want to admit I'm wrong. I think that she's got a point here.
This is so great. The beginning of Love Bites by Hailstorm. Lizzie sings, don't listen what your girlfriend says. She reads those magazines that say you failed the test. You don't have what she needs.
Yep.
Lizzie gets it.
Lizzie Hale knows. Ashley says her husband won some Hollywood Dad tickets and he hasn't got them yet. She was hoping to get some help. Not right now, Ashley. Yeah. Mom and Dad are fighting. You're going to have to wait.
I love Kelly, but we are far apart on this one.
Rebecca's right. She said, are we sure Thick and Kelly aren't actually married? Sheesh, they push each other's buttons like they've been married for 6 years. It's true. I literally would be getting a divorce if I was married to Thick Rick. We would have gotten divorced 20 years ago. We could never, ever live together. That is how opposite we are in the way we communicate.
That's why we can be such good friends.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's right. It's a test on you finding value in me and me finding value in you. We've really been friends for 30 plus years, and we've managed to make it work.
Jury's still out on Lewis.
No, I was getting my knives out. That way they could solve this like the olden days. Trial by combat was about 5 minutes away from being initiated.
Oh, please.
And I don't know. I like Rick, but I kind of had my money on Kelly, but we would have seen where it would have went.
Keep your damn bird test.
Doug says, my wife and I think Kelly's right on this. Rebecca says, I do agree with Kelly. So I'll read the ones who are in agreement with me, and you can read the other 90% who agree with you, Thick.
Is it 90?
I think.
The majority.
I think you've got a majority of people who are on your side here.
Well, it seems like most of the males are agreeing with me.
No, there's been a couple
This
of
person texted, didn't leave a name. It said it's not... said, chill out. It's not testing in the formal sense. It's just if you're paying close attention to compatibility. And that's exactly right.
Yeah, you can do that. But to go out of your way to do the test, that's where I have the problem. All right, I've calmed down. But, Kelly, we each have people agreeing with us, just left and right, about the bird test. So
I'm in my room with my headphones on.
Waiting for mom and dad to get done fighting.
Mm-hmm. Somebody said they think you're being purposefully argumentative, but I said you are obtuse all the time and you don't even know it. It's true. You know that's true.
Okay. Wait a minute. What? I'd say what I think and feel, and I meant it. I think it's a high school head game, and I don't want anything to do with it. And I don't want anything to do with you if you're testing me with some high school head game.
Right, but when I try to explain, I think you're really taking this so literally. You can't hear that.
Is it okay for me to come down for dinner, or should I just get takeout later?
Yeah, you can come down now.